Every teacher in history began by asking something of their followers, a commitment, an action, a belief held in advance of understanding. Jesus did something no other teacher in recorded history did, with the same consistency and the same precision, before he ever asked anything. He told you who he was. 7 times in the Gospel of John. He used the most ancient and most loaded 2-word phrase in the entire Semitic world, I am, and attached to it a declaration so specific, so embodied, so rooted in the material and spiritual reality of daily life, that each one functions less like a theological statement and more like a key, not a key to a doctrine. A key to a door inside you that most people spend their entire lives walking past without ever trying to open. What if each of those 7 declarations was not only a revelation of who Jesus is, but a precise description of what you were created to experience every single day? What if hidden inside the most familiar words of the Gospels is a daily practice so simple that a child could do it, and so deep that a lifetime would not exhaust it? That is exactly what this video is about. Before he asked anything, he said who he was. There's a pattern in the Gospel of John so consistent that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every time Jesus prepares to offer something transformative, a teaching, a healing, an invitation that will cost something to accept, he does not begin with the offer. He begins with an announcement. He establishes the nature of the source before the transmission is made, and the vehicle he uses every single time is the same. 2 words in Greek, egoraimi, which translate into English as I am, and carry inside them an Aramaic and Hebrew resonance so ancient and so charged that every person in his audience would have felt the weight of them before the sentence was even finished. The phrase I am is not ordinary speech in the Semitic world. It is the divine name. When Moses stood before the burning bush and asked the name of the presence speaking to him, the answer was precisely this constriction. I am that I am rendered in Hebrew as YH, the unpronounceable, the self-existent, the one whose being is not derived from anything outside itself. Every time Jesus said ego eimi in John's Gospel, he was not making a grammatical statement. He was invoking a frequency, aligning himself explicitly and deliberately with a primordial creative intelligence that the Hebrew tradition had always understood to be the source of all that exists. And then he did something even more remarkable. He took that infinite, unnameable divine frequency and he clothed it in the most specific, most tangibly, most human images imaginable. Bread, light, a door, a shepherd, resurrection. Road. Bine. He pulled the infinite into the intimate. He described the nature of divine reality not in the abstract language of philosophy but in the language of daily life, the things you touch and taste and walk through and depend on to survive. He did this 7 times, and each time the image he chose was not decorative. It was functional. It pointed not only toward who he was, but toward how you were designed to live in contact with what he carried. This is what the next 6 chapters of this video are going to unlock, one declaration at a time. Bread and light. The first 2 transmissions. The first declaration appears in John chapter 6, in the aftermath of the feeding of the 5,000. The crowds have followed Jesus across the Sea of Galilee because they want more bread, physical provision, the security of knowing their hunger will be met again tomorrow. And Jesus does not dismiss their hunger. He meets it exactly where it is, and then takes it deeper. I am the bread of life, he says. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. In the ancient world, bread was not a preference. It was survival. It was the first thing you thought about when you woke, and the last thing you secured before you slept. By claiming this image, Jesus is not offering a spiritual metaphor as a substitute for real nourishment. He is saying, the same urgency you feel toward physical sustenance, that non-negotiable daily need that, organizes your morning before anything else. That is the correct posture for your relationship to the divine source within you. The practice this declaration contains is one of sequence. The question it poses to your daily life is not whether you will be nourished, but what you will feed yourself first. Every human being wakes hungry. For reassurance, for direction, for a sense that the day ahead has meaning, and that they have what it takes to meet it. The habit hidden inside, I am the bread of life, is the discipline of feeding the interior reality before you feed anything else. Before you open the news, before you check what the world is saying about itself this morning, before you hand your first waking moments to any voice other than the one that knows you from the inside. The second declaration follows in the very next chapter. I am the light of the world, Jesus says. And then he adds a dimension that most readings leave behind. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Light in the ancient world did not simply illuminate. It revealed. It showed what was already there, but could not be seen without it. The habit inside this declaration is visibility. The commitment to bring the interior light outward in a way that others can see and be oriented by. After this video was first shared, Hundreds ask the same question. Where can they go deeper? The Divine Light Academy has put together a complete written guide with the meaning, the pronunciation, and the step-by-step application. So you can follow along with these as you watch. The link is in the comments. The third declaration arrives in John chapter 10, and it is the most architecturally precise of all 7. I am the door, Jesus says. And then he specifies exactly what this means in practice. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. A door is not a destination. A door is a threshold, a point of passage between one state and another. It does not hold you inside. It does not lock you out. It opens and it closes, and the person who understands how to use it moves through it freely, back and forth, between the interior reality of the divine presence and the exterior reality of daily life in the world. The practice encoded in this declaration is the practice of consultation, the discipline of pausing at thresholds before you cross them. Every significant decision in a human life is a doorway. Every choice that will change the quality of your days for months or years ahead is a passage from one state to another. The habit hidden here is not hesitation but discernment, the deliberate act of stopping before the threshold and asking which opening leads to pasture and which leads somewhere else. Entirely, the fourth declaration, I am the Good Shepherd, is the most relationally intimate of the 7. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep, Jesus says. And then, I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. The word know here is not intellectual acquaintance. In both the Greek and the underlying Aramaic register, it carries the weight of intimate, experiential knowledge, the kind of knowing that comes only from sustained, attentive presence over time. The shepherd knows the sheep because he has been with them in every kind of weather, in every season, at every hour of vulnerability. The habit this declaration generates is the practice of attentive care directed outward, specifically toward whoever in your immediate life is most vulnerable, most overlooked, most in need of someone who will simply slow down long enough to actually see them. For those who want to go further, the Divine Light Academy has put together a complete written guide with a meaning and step-by-step application for each of the 7 declarations. It is linked in the first comment below: resurrection, the way, and the vine. The final 3. The 5th declaration is spoken not from a mountaintop or a synagogue, but at the graveside of a man Jesus loved. Lazarus has been dead for 4 days. His sister Martha stands before Jesus in grief. And in that specific moment, inside the weight of actual death, actual loss, actual despair, Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. This is not a promise delivered in comfortable distance from suffering. It is spoken directly into the center of it, and that is precisely the point. The resurrection declaration does not function in abstraction. It functions in contact with the specific places in your life where something has already died, where you have already accepted that a certain door is closed, a certain season is over, a certain version of yourself or your relationships or your work is gone. The habit hidden here is the practice of return, the willingness to pick up again what you set down in a moment of exhaustion or defeat, and to bring to it the same quality of attention and care you brought before the loss, trusting that the same power that moved in Lazarus' tomb is capable of moving in whatever you have buried. The 6th declaration, I am the way, the truth, and the life, is the most frequently quoted, and perhaps the least deeply inhabited of the 7. Its habit is the most interior of all. The practice of replacing false self-belief with revealed truth. Every human being carries a private narrative about who they are and what they are capable of. And a significant portion of that narrative was written in moments of pain, failure, and unworthiness rather than in clarity and love. The way, the truth, and the life is not primarily an exclusion clause. It is a navigation system, and it only functions when you are willing to let the old map go. The 7th and final declaration, I am the true vine, arrives in John chapter 15, and carries the most direct language about the mechanism of spiritual transformation in the entire gospel. Remain in me, as I also remain in you. Jesus says, no branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. The vine does not produce the fruit through effort. It produces fruit through connection. And the habit this declaration carries is the simplest and most countercultural of all 7. The practice of deliberate stillness at the close of the day. 5 minutes of silence and presence before sleep. The choice to end the day connected rather than depleted. The complete guide is pinned in the first comment. The most important words, their exact meaning, and the full step-by-step practice protocols. For those ready to go deeper, the link is there, waiting. The architecture of 7. Why this sequence is not accidental. The 7 declarations do not appear in John's Gospel in random order. When you lay them side by side and read them as a single continuous transmission rather than 7 separate statements, a precise interior logic emerges, one that maps onto the complete arc of human transformation from the most basic level of daily survival all the way to the deepest level of sustained spiritual union. This is not a reading that requires special knowledge to access. It is visible in the structure itself. Once you know what you are looking at, the sequence moves from outside to inside, from body to soul, from doing to being. It begins with bread, the most physical, most immediate, most survival-oriented image possible. It moves to light, the capacity to see clearly and be seen. It passes through the door, the practice of discernment at the threshold of choice. It enters the field of relationship through the shepherd, the call to attentive, sacrificial care for the vulnerable. It descends into death and emerges into resurrection, the willingness to return to what was lost. It navigates through truth, the interior reckoning with the false self, and it arrives at the vine, the final and most complete image, the one in which the transformation is no longer something you are doing, but something you are living, not through effort, but through sustained connection with the source. 7 steps, 7 images, 7 habits. The progression is not linear in the sense of a ladder you climb and leave behind. It is more like a spiral, each declaration circling back to deepen the one that came before it, so that every time you return to the bread of life after having practiced the vine, you experience the bread at a different depth than you did before. The ancient teachers who transmitted the mystical dimensions of John's Gospel understood this spiraling quality as the defining characteristic of genuine inner work, the insight that you do not finish with a teaching and move on. You return to it again and again, and each time it has more to give you than it did the last time you came. What Jesus described across these 7 declarations was not a theology to be believed. It was an inner geography to be inhabited, 7 dimensions of a single reality that is always present, always available, always waiting for the moment you turn toward it with enough stillness and enough intention to actually receive what it has always been offering. 7 times in the Gospel of John, Jesus paused before any invitation and announced the nature of the source. He said, "I am the bread that satisfies the hunger nothing else can reach. I am the light that reveals what was always there but could not be seen. I am the door through which you pass freely into fullness of life. I am the shepherd who knows you by name and will not lose you. I am the resurrection that meets you inside your most finished feeling losses. I am the way and the truth and the life that replaces every false map you have ever carried. Vine, and you are the branch, and the fruit is not your achievement. It is the natural consequence of your remaining connected to me." Each declaration was not the end of the transmission. It was the beginning of a practice, and the practice, held consistently over 7 days, then 7 weeks, then a lifetime, does not produce religious performance. It produces the kind of person who no longer needs to be told who they are, because they have come to know it from the inside. In the same way the shepherd knows the sheep and the vine knows the branch, not through information but through sustained, attentive, daily presence. Everything in this video is the foundation. The complete guide is pinned in the first comment. The Divine Light Academy has assembled every declaration, its full meaning, and the step-by-step daily practice, so you can follow along with ease. For those ready to go deeper, the link is there waiting for you. And if this activated something in you, if you felt something shift while watching, you are ready for what comes next. In the next video, we go inside the original Aramaic, behind the I am declarations, the precise sounds Jesus used, the frequencies embedded in each one, and the activation practice that has been passed down through the oldest mystical lineages of the Christianese. The same teachings, a deeper transmission. Though not mis Italiano. Right now, before you close this video, choose one of the 7. Just one. Speak it aloud. I am in the bread. I am in the light. I am in the vine. Feel which one your body recognizes. Then come to the comments and tell us which declaration chose you today, and what shifted when you said it. We read every single response. And if this teaching found you today, subscribe to this channel. Every week we go deeper into the ancient transmissions that were always meant to reach you.